Hello and a warm welcome to another episode of the Third Half Podcast, a podcast where we talk all things Sport.Fun, covering both football and American football. I'm Palmer and I'm joined with my co-host Laird. Laird, how are we doing this week?
I'm good. Very excited to hear from our guest today about a very big week for them.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, I mean, we're what, less than 24 hours on the back of I was going to say a massive result. I suppose it's not done yet, but it's a massive step in the right direction. HK, welcome, mate. Thank you for joining us. How are you feeling? Waking up, you're one step closer to lifting, the Champions League trophy. How do you feel?
No. First of all, thanks for having me on. And yeah, no, I mean, watching Arsenal's honestly, it's tough watching Arsenal this year, right? Uh, so after that Man City game, I think it was after the show, right? I did with you guys before. I think we did it in late March, right? So April was a really tough month, right? I don't think we won one game in April. We won Newcastle, home, and even that was edgy as well, right? So. Yeah, but after the the Fulham game, and then obviously what happened to Man City on Monday, and then and then obviously we had the Champions League. The atmosphere was insane yesterday, and yeah, I mean it wasn't the nicest way to win, right? But we got through at the end, and no, I'm happy, right? I think it's like 4 games where we could possibly do the double. I'm hoping we get the Premier League at least. I have a feeling, if you do get the Premier League, we go into that Champions League final with a lot more confidence and less pressure, knowing that we've got a major trophy in the bank, and this is just like go out and just perform, right? Like whereas if you do lose I'm hoping we don't bottle it now, but if you do somehow lose the Premier League, imagine going into that Champions League final, like literally all that pressure. I don't think we can handle it, but yeah, that's where I'm at right now.
No, it's an interesting one. I'll go on, Les. I was going to say just quickly, I think I personally, and probably the whole of the UK were all supporting Atletico Madrid. And yeah, I loaded up Twitter and I was scrolling through. I was like, I've just got to come away and have a little conversation in the SDF kind of Discord. And I was like, I'm not going to win this tonight. So I'll let you guys be happy and, and leave it.
Were you more excited about Man City drawing or on Monday or Arsenal winning yesterday?
Oh, I think the Man City game, honestly, it's a weird dynamic. But when Everton scored that goal, I just jumped up. I was like all of a sudden, like they weren't even in the game. I don't think they had a shot before. They had that one chance where I think Iliman got through on goal, and he missed. And I was like, oh great, this is typical, right? Like the other team always missing chances, and Man City just scraping through. And then nothing was really happening in the game. I think in the second half, like Man City was just passing it side to side most of the game. And then, one error, and then all of a sudden within 10 minutes it's 3-1. And I'm thinking I'm thinking about like title and all this, right? And then what happened after that is like, I didn't actually notice how Haaland scored. And until after the game, I realized he scored straight from the kickoff. Like it was that so much happening at once. It was just insane, right? And then I had a feeling they were going to score at the end just because they had like a good 15 minutes left in the game, including extra time. I was like, okay, they'll get the draw. But I think in my head, I'm always like, if they can drop points somehow, wherever, I'm of the thought that we go into that West Ham game almost like there's less pressure, but we can go for the win without thinking about defeat. Whereas I felt like if we had to win that game, there's that additional pressure, and some people are saying Man City were going to smash Everton 3-0 or something. So when I look back at it, I think that game just it lifted me for the Atletico game, if that makes sense, because I think if City won and there was that additional pressure, and then we go into Atletico, I think even the players probably just found it had that bit of a bounce, especially after that Fulham game. But yeah, no, it's been a crazy few days.
How do you feel around? So I think one thing that's a massive narrative, and I'll even say that I have the same belief in terms of this. Arsenal play pathetically boring football as a neutral, you know, and Laird and I have had these conversations last week where obviously last week's episode was on the back of the fantastic PSG Bayern game. We were talking about our first leg of Arsenal Atleti is going to be a ball draw, it's going to be shit. And obviously now we're kind of having the reverse of we've watched last night's game be the Arsenal, which I think I looked on the stats. Arsenal had 2 shots on target. One was the shot which was saved, and the second, which was the follow up from Saka that scored the goal. And it's like there's that narrative that Arsenal play boring, but then we look at the Premier League and Man City are kind of not saying that they're boring, but 1-0 against Burnley after scoring like I think 4 minutes into the game and stuff. Are you somebody that pays attention to these narratives and cares about people that say Arsenal are boring? Are you just simply 3 points, get the win, see you later, don't care?
I think I think if you would ask me, like, if you were a successful team and we were winning, you know, at least a trophy every 3 or 4 years, then I'd say, you know, what you said, right, entertaining football, etc. But I think after going through the Wenger period where, you know, we had insane football, we scored some crazy goals. You know, Cesc Fabregas, Wilshere, those Özil, all those sort of players, and then after that, in all the sort of, you know, all the times we were smashed by Bayern Munich in the knockout stages in the Champions League, I'm just thinking like I think because of that, Arsenal fans really don't care how we get this first trophy, right? It's just, you know, get over the line sort of thing. Now, you know, I think we are more than capable of actually playing good football. I think some of the personnel, you know, like a prime example is Zubimendi, right? He's one that you generally just passes it side to side, plays the safer pass. And then you have Myers Lewis Skelly, who in the last 2 games has featured, right? He always tries to make that sort of you know, direct first pass, right? I think it's a lot of it comes down to sort of the players that we have, and not everyone has a Cherky and a Semenyo, and, you know, like talented players that have a, you know, a unique sort of skill set. I think Arsenal's players are a bit more straightforward, as in, like, you know, Rice doesn't do anything special, but he's very effective. But I think, you know, and the fact that, you know, we don't concede much, I almost just think, you know, get over the line, however, whatever it takes at this point. Maybe next year we might demand a bit more, but yeah, right now, yeah, give me the Premier League.
That was like the nicest way anyone could have said "fuck off, Palmer" and everybody else.
Honestly, like yesterday, Palmer was in the Discord, right, and he was like, "How are you guys enjoying this?" And I was like, "We just got to the final of the Champions League. We're literally a game away, probably, from the Premier League, and people are coming at us with, why do you enjoy it? Like, how do you enjoy watching them?" And I'm like, Jose Mourinho teams like were applauded back in the days of just, you know, putting 10 men behind the ball and scraping a win, right? Back when Inter Milan won the Champions League in 2010, I think. Sorry, 2010. But yeah, no, yeah, I wasn't having any of that. But yeah.
I mean, it's an interesting one, and I don't know if you guys have seen. Actually, you might see if I can pull it up. I always forget what Portuguese league is called, Liga Portugal or whatever it's called. So you've got, yeah, here we go. So Porto are top of the league on 85 points. They've lost 1 game. Benfica at the moment are unbeaten. They're 9 points behind.
Oh, wow.
You know, and it's like. So whenever people kind of talk about, oh, it's, you know, get the results, don't lose, there is that narrative still. You know, Jose Mourinho, you've just mentioned it, with his Benfica team, they haven't lost a single league game in Liga Portugal, but they're second behind a Porto team that has lost because, you know, Porto are going for the win, playing that expansive football. They've scored similar goals and conceded similar goals, you know, so it's not exactly like Benfica are scoring, you know, or getting 0-0s. It's just Porto are doing enough to get it over the line. And I suppose that's probably where you fans, as Arsenal fans, are probably now looking and saying, what do we do to get it over the line? We don't mind losing a game here or there, but just get the 3 points, keep moving forwards and going in that direction. So, I mean, the narrative's there, I think, for everybody. I think every single fan who watches the Premier League wants to see Spurs relegated and Arsenal bottle the league. I have to ask, where as well, you being an Arsenal fan, where do you sit on that kind of Spurs potentially being relegated? Do you care for it, or are you just focused on your own race?
Yeah, the funny thing is, every Spurs fan should be an Arsenal fan on Sunday, because if Arsenal win West Ham, Spurs probably
Yeah,
survive, right? Like, so it's a funny narrative how, for once, they might, I've seen some Spurs fans say, we'd rather get relegated if that means Arsenal don't win the league. There is that narrative as well, so which is crazy, right? Like, some fans out there are a bit a bit too extreme, but I honestly, like, it's one less big. If they get relegated, it's like one less big game for us in a year, right? Like I think no matter how much of a gap we have in terms of squad quality, etc., right? That game always is a tough game because it's a derby, right? Like Everton and Liverpool, no matter how good Liverpool are over Everton, I think that game is always tough, right? So I think if that means we have one less, well, it's two games, right? Home and away. So if you have two games that turns out to be another club from the Championship instead. So I feel like, it's ultimately two games, a lot easier. And I feel like, then you almost just count, Man City, Man United, probably Liverpool, probably Villa away, and probably Chelsea away as your hardest games in the season, right? Whereas you don't have that Spurs home and away fixture. So, of course, I'd love for them to be relegated. But yeah, I don't think too much about them as much, like as in the way where some of the hardcore Arsenal fans are like, Spurs have to go down, It's like the best thing for them, right? But I think I'm just of the thought, like, I'd love for them to be down, but we need to win West Ham on the weekend, right? No matter what. So yeah, they're probably going to survive now. I think. I do think
I
that
think so.
manager appointment of getting De Zerbi in just in time, I felt was important, because you've got a few Brighton players in that Spurs team that De Zerbi probably would have had a good connection with, and then I do think West Ham are struggling when it comes to. I think they've been getting through a few games, and then I feel they've still got one or two games where I think they can drop points. Although Spurs also have tough games as well. Yeah, so we'll see what happens. But yeah.
I agree with you on that. I think I don't see games now where Spurs can exactly go on and win in the next, I think, 3 or 4 games they have left. But I also don't see West Ham. And I think the fact that they beat Villa, that's kind of sealed them survival. So it'll be interesting to see. Just flipping it back to kind of the SDF side and obviously the picks. Are you somebody that, have you put lots of Arsenal players in your picks, or do you kind of don't play with your head and your heart in the same game? Do you you want Arsenal to win, but you're not going to back it in SDF, or have you gone full stack?
Yeah, I do this. Yeah, it might come across a bit weird, but I do this thing where in fantasy sports, I've always like hedged against Arsenal, right? So for example, this week I put Oblak in net, right, in my picks. So with the idea that if he does well, Arsenal get knocked out of the Champions League, but at least I get something. I get TP, or I get some sort of something
an
out
emotional
of it.
hedge.
Exactly right. And I did it the other week. I actually did it last week as well, where I put Donnarumma in my keeper spot. And so if City did well against Everton, great, right? And if they didn't, even better, right? I think I do that with my sort of defenders and keeper spot, but generally, last week I had my best, probably one of my best finishes. Sorry, my best scores, because I picked Saka, and I also had Vinny Junior as my captain, so that worked out well.
Yeah.
I think I can't. I need to check which league I'm in actually, like as in sort of the skill rating. So right now I'm in Diamond, and I'm ranked 10th in Diamond. So I think that's 17th overall if you look at how many people are in Elite. So yeah, I don't think I've missed a week as well. So I kind of do pay attention to getting my picks in. Even though there's no sort of additional bonus yet. It's just part of the week, right? I just want to get in a good selection, and just get as high as possible. But yeah, it's no, I like that additional feature to the game. And yeah, how are you guys playing it weekly, or like are you guys?
I am. I'm in Diamond also. I looked at this yesterday on stream. So I'm, let's see, 6th in Diamond right now. But I actually found this midweek really hard to make a line. Like I ended up going very I call it like a barbell or a dumbbell. Like it's like very top heavy. And then I have to find guys who hopefully do something. I had a Doku captain last tournament.
Oh wow!
And so I was like cruising, and then, I thought I was going to be. I had a Dortmund defensive stack. I had Kobel Schlotterbeck, and they conceded in like the 89th minute or something like that to lose 1-0. And then I had Bellingham, Doku, and Haaland, and Bellingham ended up being like the top midfielder. And I was like, man, I was so close to just like literally almost the perfect score.
Wow.
But yeah, I've had a lot of fun with it, even though it doesn't mean anything right now.
Yeah.
At least I have that little bit of hope that like when it does go live with rewards, they're like, hey, if you're in a leader diamond, like here's something. And I'm like, oh great, thanks.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
And not the case that they just wipe it and say, right, good practice run, back to zero.
Well done. Like, you're back at 0.
Imagine that, right? Back to 0. And well, yeah, no.
I've struggled on picks a little bit because I keep forgetting to set it up. Like, so I either miss the first like game day, or at the very, very beginning, I was using only the players that I owned, and I'd like refused to buy anybody else. So I'd be like, So I kind of sandbagged myself, and then I was like, right, I'm going to use everybody, and then I'd miss games, and now I'm like, right, let's actually try and spend some time on it. But I mean, I had a Lenormand in defence, so he's my only player that's played so far this week. Obviously that didn't work out well, but
you're dead.
I was assuming it was going to be like a 0-0, kind of going into 90 minutes, and maybe he'd then get a few extra points. But it is what it is. I mean, it's a fun extra little game. I think they can definitely expand it a lot more, and I probably need to spend more time dealing with it. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah. I actually went Rice and Saka this week, and obviously Saka scored, which is nice, right, for the midweek. And Rice, I always feel like Rice starts every game, so it's like a guaranteed starter, and he gets about 100 points. So in my head, I'm always thinking at least I get 100 there. I've gone Kane captain this week. I'm guessing it's going to be another 4-all or 3-all or whatever it is, right? Today, which I guess in the position as an Arsenal fan, it's going to be a good watch right now. Just seeing who's going to get to the final. And then I also have Konsa for Villa in defence. I mean, it's a big game for them. This kind of slowed down in the league. I think they'll get Champions League football, but yeah, it's a huge game because Forest are in form. I don't know if you guys have been seeing like Morgan Gibbs White's been turning into Ronaldo lately, and yeah, they've been winning like most of their games like every week. So yeah, see how that goes.
It'll be interesting. We'll move on to kind of obviously tonight's game. Once this podcast goes live, we're probably looking at an hour or two away from kickoff. Run a bit through one of the predicted lineups. You mentioned Harry Kane. Obviously, Harry Kane's set to start. And then we're looking at Diaz, Musiala, and Elise. Now, on the Bayern side, I went for Kane in the last leg. I was between kind of Kane or Elise. Oh no, actually, did I? I can't. Maybe I've lied. Did I go for Kane or did I go for Elise? How do we look? Can I go back? Because I know I was between the two. Oh, that's it. I went Elise. So I was going to go Kane. I thought, no, I'll go Elise. And now this week I was going to go Kane, and I've gone Diaz. And I'm like, might change it up a little bit. And then obviously on the flip side, it's a standard Kvaratskhelia, Dembele, Doué, backed with the likes of Neves and Vitinha. And it's just like the firepower on those two sides is just unbelievable. Are we kind of expecting fireworks again and goals? Do you think it'll be a bit more cautionary? PSG obviously have the 1-goal advantage. It's beautiful, I think, that we've got no away goals, because say if there was away goals counting, Bayern would have 4 away goals, and it's like, it would kind of kill it. So it's wide open. Do we think both teams attack? Do we think one of them comes a bit slower out the blocks? What are we looking for?
I think on the midfielders, right? I think one thing to note is midfielders always also get a reduction in points if they concede a goal, right?
Mm-hmm.
So one thing I noticed last week was Elliot Anderson came first, because the rest of that, Olise, Neves, they all conceded 5, right? So it's like they all had a bit slight negative. So I think on the midfield side, hence I went with Rice, just to like, in case, Alicia concedes another 3, right? But I think, it's a toss-up, on the forwards, right? Because you've probably got like 6, between both sides, 6 of the top 10, arguably best forwards in the world, right? On the pitch at the same time. So it's almost like a toss-up. I went with Kane last week. I'm going with Kane again, with the hope he gets a penalty, right? Because it's kind of like, especially in Champions League, they're very easy giving penalties away, right? Like if it comes off the leg and then the hand, then it's penalty, right?
let's not talk about last night and the penalty shouts. Then we'll skip?
We'll skip Arsenal games, right? But yeah, no, I think I'm leaning towards Kane just because of that, the fact that he might take a penalty. In the same way, you could go Dembele, who also takes penalties, right? So I'm going down that route. In terms of result, I do think Bayern will win, just because of that home advantage. But yeah, I won't be surprised if PSG just put another 4 past them. Like, they're just insane. But yeah, what do you guys think?
I find it funny that the question was presented as if they wanted to like play that back and defensive, that they could do it. Like, they're just they seem completely incapable of doing it, both sides. So yeah, I just believe that that they'll just go nuts, because why not? Like, that's what they did. That's what these teams do. First to 10 wins.
Golden goal. I mean, it's such a different game. We're looking at the other side of the Champions League semi-final, and going into the Arsenal Atletico Madrid game, I think the question was being asked of who scores and where does a goal get created from. The obvious was probably set pieces, some form of kind of deflection, and that's pretty much what we got. We got a long shot and a follow-up rebound and no other real chances. Whereas we're now looking at this game and saying, who the hell can save or block a shot? Because, I mean, the match ratings on the other leg, the reverse fixture for this game, was mental, where, most match ratings had the kind of the forwards between the 8 and 10 range and the defenders between the kind of 4 and 6 range. I think there was like one decent block by Upamecano against Dembele in the whole of the game. The rest of it was just like we were watching a counter-attack with 5 attackers sprinting at 2 defenders, thinking, who's going to be the one that scores the goal? It's going to be exciting. HK, I want to ask, so putting your kind of Arsenal cap back on, watching this game tonight, who are you wanting to win and who are you wanting to face in the final?
It's a tough one, right? I think the front threes for both, like, pose an insane threat, right? Like, you've got like, I think from with PSG, I'm mainly like, I fear the Kvaratskhelia on the left against Ben White. I'm thinking Timber probably is not back, and even if he is back, I don't think he just goes straight into the team. Just sort of that psychological thing where you put a new player in a final. I think they wouldn't risk that. So I'm just thinking Ben White against Kvaratskhelia, and I saw how Doku did against Ben White in the final of the Carabao Cup, and he struggled. So I'm thinking I want to avoid, but I feel the reason why I prefer Bayern is psychologically they've come up against Kane before. They played Olise before at Palace, and they've also played Diaz before at Liverpool, right? So I feel there's that understanding of we know what these players can do, and if they look at it as these are 3 players that have played in the Premier League and we've we've done well against these players in the past, and we won them in the group stage. I feel like there's that bit more belief. I do think PSG have I don't know what it is, but they have that runaway train ability where they score 3 goals in 5 minutes sort of thing. And it's just bang, 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 and the game's over. And you saw that in the final last year against Inter Milan, where the game finished at halftime, right? It was like 3-4-0. And I also think the Bayern Munich fullbacks are as good as the PSG fullbacks in terms of pace, man-to-man, which is one thing that I want to bring up because Hakimi is injured in tonight's game, right? And Luis Diaz had a good game last time, right? And this time they have their second right back. I have a feeling, Luis Diaz might get even more sort of freedom, given, Hakimi's a good player, right? He's pretty fast. He can really defend very tight against Diaz, but I don't know who that right back is. You guys may know, but it'll be interesting to see how Diaz gets on. But if I had to pick, I'd pick Bayern Munich because I feel defensively they'll give you chances, and that front forward have faced them before a few times.
I think they play Zaire Emery at right back usually.
Yeah, that's what he's suggesting. I think it's quite interesting hearing you say that. So I believe that Bayern win tonight. However, I believe that Arsenal would do better against PSG. I think stylistically in the matchup that you play, if there's a team that can really break down a low block effectively, I think you'd look at Bayern favouring that position. Obviously, you've got Kane as the focal point and the target man, can drop in behind. Whereas we often watch PSG, like you say, score 3 goals in 5 minutes just from these fast attacks, fast breakaways, getting in behind. And it's almost like I reckon Arsenal could probably do a better job to stifle that attack from PSG. Not to say that Liverpool are an amazing team. We're playing like absolute dog shit right now. But, watching Liverpool versus PSG, we kind of had that same impact of trying to stifle them a little bit. So it'll be interesting to see kind of what happens. And I suppose you'll be watching that thinking, who are we now playing in the final? And,
yeah,
have to see how that goes.
Yeah, no, for sure. And yes, it's an interesting dynamic, right? Because I've owned David Raya for a long time, right? And David Raya is like very good in terms of his TP success, right? Like he's literally first or second every week, right?
Yeah.
But he's also one of the best top keepers that's not playing in the World Cup. Well, I'm guessing Unai Simon will be the keeper, right? Given I was hearing, in the recent sort of international break where he said that Simon is number 1, right? So I'm wondering how people play Raya, because there's that idea of you want to be holding the World Cup players now because shifting focus to I guess it's a month long World Cup, right? So yeah, I'm still holding my my Raya shares. Just because he just TPs too often, right? And every game matters for Arsenal. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how the market reacts to, like how certain players who aren't going to be traveling for the World Cup, and then certain players that will be. You can already see certain players drop near the guys like Tapsoba, who's decent, right? Does TPs every now and then, but has kind of dropped in price recently due to the most people are trying to build for that World Cup squad, and I'm doing the same, right? I'm trying to build my squad so that I have the players ready for that first tournament, basically in early June, I think it is. So yeah. What are you guys doing the same, or are you guys more kind of just looking at the tournaments now?
I sold who was it? Bastoni and Barella last week, and of course Bastoni top 5'd over the weekend, and I was like, of course but I basically have been. It's like I tend not to add brand new players to my port. Like I just add on to the guys I have, but I am kind of making sure if there are 2 guys I'm considering and one is not a World Cup player, I'm just like, I'm not even going to buy that guy right now, even if they have the better matchup in the short term. I'll happily take the World Cup guy. And most of the stuff I've done recently, Palmer, I don't know if I shared this in the Discord or not. I got like the worst upgrade possible yesterday. I had a 5K that was upgraded to a 5,000 TP pack that was upgraded to an epic. And I ended up with, let me see if I can find it. It was I got so excited when I saw the upgrade. I got Garassi, Jonathan David, and Vicario.
Oh, wow.
5,000 TP pack, upgrade, 105 gold. And
that's rough.
So basically what I've been doing is if I get players I don't want, I've been selling them and buying NFL shares. Now I've stopped that over the last 2 or 3 tournaments. But I was like, an epic. I was like, if I don't get enough the guys I want, I'll just throw it in NFL. And the value was not that like 105 gold is nothing, but I was like, it's so low that I was just like, this, I don't want 7,000 shares of Garassi, 6,000 shares of Jonathan David. So I think I just like threw them into Pedri or something. And I was like, I'll be happy with this. But it was like, I think I had like 8,000 TP. And I was like, all right, previously I used to open at 5,000. Then I changed it to 2,500 or 2,000. I was like, maybe I just need to get more packs so that I can get the upgrade. But I did a 5,000. I was like, fuck it, let's just do it. And I got the upgrade and I was like, let's go. And then I was just like immediately down.
Great.
But to answer the question, I've basically been moving into other like football to football still. And if they're in the World Cup, then I'm going into them.
I'll give a full breakdown of my port. It's small enough to do so. So I've got Pedri, Emi Martinez, Bruno Fernandes, Declan Rice, David Raya, Doku, Yildiz, Robert Lenormand, Schlotterbeck, Leao, Tar, Jonathan David, and Rodon. Now, Rodon's somebody that I think he's so cheap that I'm just like, I've got, I think 50, 60,000 shares in him. Just in case he gets TP in the final few weeks. And I'm like, his price, even in the off season, just it's so low, it can't come down that much anyway. So I'm like, I'm fine with that. But David Raya is in my top 5 holdings. And HK, it's interesting you say that about the keeper, because again, I've heard the exact same. Unai Simon has been favoured. And I've mentioned this before that, Spain have an unbelievable team. And then when you look in goal, you've got Joan Garcia from Barcelona, a La Liga winner, David Raya, goalkeeper for Arsenal, potential Premier League and Champions League winner. And they're starting Unai Simon, who is 8th in La Liga, who has conceded 50 goals in La Liga, 50. Which is,
wow.
So Barca conceded 31, Real Madrid 31. Like you've got to go down to 8th to get 50. And then there's even teams like Osasuna. So you got 10th, 11th, teams like this that have conceded less goals than Bilbao. I genuinely believe, and again, I'm not the manager, I don't have any inside scoop, but I'm like, if Arsenal go on to win the Premier League and the Champions League, how do you not start David Raya for the World Cup? That just like, I understand he's got the favourite in goal in Unai Simon, but Simon is a shit keeper. He's so bad. Like if you've actually, if anybody's watched any game from Atletico Bilbao, and I don't mean just like as in go watch 90 minutes on a couple of games, watch him distribute it out, from goal kicks and when he's got it at the back, try and save shots. He's fucking awful. And I'm like, they surely can't not play Raya. So I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to hold him. I'll run him through now. Obviously, he's got the Champions League final, so I'll run that. And I'll just hope that the manager, I don't even know who the Spain manager is, but I will just hope that some sense kind of hits him in the head and he goes, what am I doing? Let me start him.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I feel, I think I heard in one of the international friendlies that Raya did play one game and he had like a nervy moment where he passed it to like Arsenal do have those nervy moments where they pass it out from the back and, it's very close, right? I think in the past, largely the Spain national goalkeeper is someone that plays in the La Liga, predominantly, like just most of the time, right? I know you had Iker Casillas for a long time, and at the same time you had Pepe Reina at Liverpool, right? Who never really got a sniff at being the national team keeper, right? I think that kind of plays a part just because largely the majority of that 11 is Barcelona, Madrid, right? Like there is a bit of that, I think, in the decision making. I do think Simon will end up being keeper. I do think Garcia is kind of out of the question. I feel it's Simon or Raya, right?
Same. I agree.
So yeah, I'll probably not sell all my Raya. I think you don't want to just sell him and then be the last one to buy him again, right? Sort of thing. So I'll probably hold like a decent, because I have quite a lot of shares of him as well. So I'm like, I don't want to just be selling everything, right? But yeah, I've also just started to move some rewards over to NFL. Now, it's kind of like I've always said to myself, right, at some point I need to time this NFL run, right? And it's a tough one because, you have the World Cup and then you also have the Premier League season starts before the NFL season, right? So in my head, I'm thinking, when is that time where you have to buy it, right? So I feel like right now it's a decent time. And the reason I said that is because of sentiment. When the token's going up, and generally, I think the soccer market caps rates stayed relatively stable, as opposed to just going down, right, as it was in March. I feel like there's that time. I feel like right now is a time where I kind of consider NFL, and I'm not an NFL fan, to be honest. I just bought everyone on page one, literally, and. But yeah, I'm what I'm doing now is the rebates and the bonus TP rewards that I get. I reinvest those back into. I think what I'm doing is like 50% to soccer and 50% to NFL now, and I think I'll continue doing that from now on. Just to improve my squad wherever I can, right? But yeah, it's towards decisions like, do I have to sell this player now because they don't play for the World Cup? And also, at some point I want to be buying those players that don't play in the World Cup again, right? Because, Donnarumma is going to be a good keeper to have, right, for next season. So it's like, I don't want to just be selling him for like such a cheap price. Yeah. So I feel like in such a game, it's about getting that balancing act. You want to have the players for the current tournament, but also not just hold players like Timber, who I've held for ages, who hasn't even played for 2 months. So yeah, it's interesting times.
I just want to throw out a quick stat as well. So over the past 48 hours, well, actually longer than 48 hours, but so from midnight last night, 48 hours, so excluding the however many 16 hours in between, but there was 143 buys within NFL and only 6 sales. So, when you talk about when's the right time, there's clearly some bubbling momentum just from the data points there.
For sure, yeah.
I feel like you'd have to be crazy to sell NFL right now.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I feel like the current NFL holders are people that want to play, right? I feel like almost there's no one left that is looking for that, quick flip or whatever, trade. The ones that trying to take profits, right? I think there's a lot of good signs ahead for base in the coming months generally, right? You recently had the announcement of they looking to track on-chain sort of. I think FDF posted it on Twitter, right, where they said they're looking at how on-chain. They're looking to track on-chain basically actions, right? And that there's also hints about like a base token launch as well. So I think a lot of things in the back of people's minds is just to hold, right? There's no reason to sell right now because there's a NFL season hasn't even started. There's, you recently had that recent the draft game, right? Which I think was positive, right, overall. So yeah, I mean, I'm not a big NFL guy, largely because I can't stay awake for the matches as well, right? It's just too late. But which is why I just bought like the page one, right? Because I felt like these probably are the guys that are gonna do well. There probably are like sleeper picks, in every sport, right? That you could go for. But yeah, I felt like it was the right time for me to start buying some NFL, and then I also just bought more players. Like I added more to Pickford. I know, he's the England number one, and I was like, okay, I need to add more to Pickford, right? But yeah, it's gonna be a good few weeks, I think. I think marketing towards the World Cup's gonna pick up as well this month at some point. So yeah, looking forward to that.
Do you think the best time to sell Raya is like just before the World Cup
Champions League.
Champions League final?
I do. Yeah, I do think that if you're gonna sell before the final. If you're selling after the final, I just don't see the point, right?
Yeah.
Because I feel like he'll probably drop into. I think he'll drop into not like crazy low price. I think he'll still be like 0.016 or 5 on that range, which is about 30% off his current price, right? So it's not like it's going to be a crazy dump. I feel I'm kind of comparing to how Johan Garcia's still at 0.01, right? Even though he's not going to the World Cup. So I feel like it might be worth playing him for the World Cup, with the final. And it's interesting because if PSG go to the final, Raya is guaranteed first place for TP in the Champions League final, right? Well, unless they do this Europa League final at the same time, which is interesting, right? Because you have Sels or Emi Martinez as well. So yeah, I feel like Emi Martinez is a must pick. I did mention it on our stream last time, right? That you just have to hold him because they have a good chance for the Europa League and then also World Cup, right? But I agree with you there. I think if you're selling him, maybe just sell before the final if you want.
I'm not sure Sels hasn't been starting for Forest in Europa, so I think it literally is only Raya and possibly Martinez.
Yeah, for sure. And Neuer if Bayern Munich beat PSG, right? So there's. I think is the TP going to outweigh the reduction in price? I guess it depends, relatively to your port size, right? Like I own like 80,000 shares of Raya, right? So it's probably a bit more than what others might hold. And in my head, I'm thinking if Raya gets first place, I get let's just say a 5k TP or 6k TP pack, which I roughly think is worth like $150 to $200 on average if you get a decent pack, right? But yeah, I think I'll probably just hold him for the final just because I'm watching as an Arsenal fan and I want us to win. So I think that plays a part in my sort of decision making. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see how things work out with that.
So I think it's interesting as well. So the Champions League final is on the 30th of May, and it's the 1st of June, so 48 hours later. Well, that every single nation has to have their World Cup squad finalised. So they have to put in, this is the players I'm taking now. I think we all know that Raya's going anyway, so it's not going to be like a surprise to see him listed on the team sheet. But I think the turnaround from Champions League to that is actually really, really short because players might be, already have flown out there by that time. And then over that week, so the 11th of June is the first game. There's going to be scouts. There's going to be people watching the training sessions of these nations. And it's a case of if there is a report that's saying David Raya is getting the first choice keeper training drills, he's getting preference treatment in the kind of the training and the warm-up and the matches that they're doing behind closed doors, all of a sudden these reports drive his price back up and that risk of selling pre kind of Champions League gets offset because you have to think Spain are probably a team that's going to be in the World Cup final. Let's be honest, they're going to make it far. So if Raya is Spain's keeper, you've got him for all the group stage, all the knockout, potentially into the final, and then the start of the season. So it's high risk, high reward on both sides of it, really.
For sure, yeah. Interesting what you said as well, because the finals on the did you say 30th of May?
Correct.
And then Spain actually have a friendly on the June the 4th, right? So I think that first week in June is a friendly, right?
There you go.
So I think that's when we're going to realize in those friendlies, we're probably going to realize who's going to be like your starting players because ideally, you want to prepare for the next match in the World Cup, which is a week later, right? So I think that those friendlies will probably be the ones to, watch who's going to start, right? And yeah, we'll see, we'll see what they do, I guess. And I think it's a tough, it's a tough situation with a lot of players. Like I look at Koundé at Barcelona, right? He's he's tipped to be the France starting right back, but then he's been really poor for Barcelona, right? And then on top of that, Gusto, who's the Chelsea right back, he's been decent given Chelsea have been losing as well, right? So it'd be interesting to see, like, some of the players that you thought were going to start, right? They might not even even get much game time. Ruben Diaz is one that I've been buying. I know he's due to return from injury, and I think he's a Portugal starting centre back, and I feel Portugal have a chance to go deep. So he's definitely one player I'm looking at getting in on. And one thing that's interesting is the Spain left back situation, because all three of those left backs are in FDF, right? Which is, you probably don't have that situation in other positions, other national teams. So I have Grimaldo and Cucurella only because he's cheap, right? I don't own any Cucurella because Chelsea just can't buy a clean sheet at the moment. So, yeah, it's a tough one. I can't get myself to buy him, but yeah, what do you guys think? Who do you think's the number one choice there?
I would say Cucurella's number one left back, but I've not studied Spain's left back starter throughout their fixtures.
Yeah,
but I've
been.
I think he.
Actually now.
Go on, HK.
Go for it. Go for it.
I was going to say, like, I've been accumulating Grimaldo for a while, just for Leverkusen, not for the World Cup. But Cucurella was one I got early. He had like an early stretch where he was top fiving fairly consistently, and I was like, all right, let's do that. And I don't think he's top five since I bought. But I'm like so stubborn that I want to victory lap it if he finally gets there. And then it was like, oh, he might be in the World Cup. I'm like, okay, there's my new excuse of holding these stupid shares.
What's funny there is I actually remember the last time he TP'd only because it was a crazy game, right? He came off the bench and he actually came second in the TP. Like, it was one of the weird games where he came off the bench, he scored a goal or something, and he ended up second that week. And his the reason I remember is because his active shares ended up being low because he didn't start, and most people didn't benched him, right? So that's why I remember. But I think you're right. That was back in early February, I think, or maybe late Jan, if I remember correctly. Since then, I don't think Cucurella's had a significant sort of score in terms of TP. But yeah, the Spain manager's kind of weird, right? Like we mentioned, Unai Simons had a tough season, and he's still going to be first keeper, right? Cucurella probably had a tough season, and he might still be the first team starting left back. So it's hard to predict. I guess it's hard to predict, who's going to be that first player.
So one thing about Grimaldo, I just wanted to look up. So a few weeks ago, I remember seeing that Grimaldo was linked to Besiktas. Through looking at this as well, I've also seen that apparently he's linked to Man United. What are your guys' thoughts now? Over the coming months, there will be a lot of transfer rumours, a lot of bids coming in for players that get rejected, but also a lot of players that move teams. Now, start of this season, we saw James Trafford move to Man City. Sorry, we saw James Trafford at Man City with Donnarumma, then moves and knocks him out of the starting spots. Are you guys worried about this might happen? You could say, well, Grimaldo potentially, I mean, I would believe that Cucurella starts left back for Spain, but you could go and own Grimaldo. Grimaldo could be playing for Spain, and then all of a sudden he gets shipped off to Besiktas and he's no longer, a player that you can use next season. Is that something you guys are worried about, focused on, or are you just thinking, nah, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it?
No, I've not actually thought about a transfer. Actually, it's definitely something to consider, because another example is Rashford, right? I think Barcelona said they're not looking to sign him now, so
They don't want him.
It's either Man United bring him back and kind of spoil their front three, what's going on, which I don't think they will. And it's like, who's going to buy him? Because if he doesn't go to the sort of English teams that are already on the platform, right? What happens, right? If he goes abroad to, let's say, a lesser team, or let's say he goes to a team that's not even like that good, right? Or let's just say somewhere Turkey. That's always a good example, right?
Yeah.
I feel like, there's that. I wonder, if anyone will end up holding him, or will he just end up like what's his name? Singo, is it? I still have like one share of him somehow. I don't know. I can't sell him because he's under. But I was too
Under
late.
$1.
But yeah, I think I couldn't sell him because he's under $1, and then they froze him straight after, and I was like, great. But yeah, it's definitely interesting how the summer will play out, because there was some signings that were good. Yeah, I heard Schlotterbeck might go to Real Madrid. I know Bastoni to Barcelona's heating up as well. So he's one that's interesting because he's not at the World Cup, but do you want to buy him early if he joins Barcelona? So I am thinking, a bit about who I should buy. But I think it's probably an afterthought for now, because I'm kind of just focusing on World Cup. But yeah. What about you, Led?
I was kind of looking at my port for a second and be like, oh shit, I haven't thought about this at all. But like Grimaldo going to Turkey seems nuts. Like I feel like he's too good to go from the Bundesliga to Turkey, regardless. And to be honest, you could probably find a rumor of every single player on the platform going to either Besiktas, Fener, or Gala. So like, I'm not going to put too much into it, but I'm kind of like looking of the guys that could end up in a lower league. And I feel like the only players that like haven't been good on FDF are just too young to go that direction, if that makes sense. So like, I'm just not sure. I mean, obviously the Spurs guys may be in trouble, but but honestly,
see, that's one thing I'm quite interested about Romero, because I think if Romero gets a link to Atletico Madrid, well, they're going to have Champions League football. He's going to be in a team that is normally defensively sound. He's probably going to be starting for Argentina, because I wonder whether he's actually injured or whether he's just saying, I don't want to play for Spurs anymore. So his price is so cheap, and I'm like, I keep holding out buying him just a little bit longer in hopes that people pull him, sell him, and his price kind of dwindles down just for another week or two. And then you'll probably see me, like I say, I'm holding Joe Rodon. His money probably goes into a player like Romero. So there's so many layers to the kind of the football game at this kind of point in the season. I think it's, if Spurs go down, do people fire sale people? Because like Pedro Porro, no chance he plays in the Championship. He will just go elsewhere and play in a top 5 league. So is it even a risk that a team gets kind of relegated for some of these guys?
Yeah, for sure.
I don't think for those guys. Yeah, they'll surely move.
They have to, right? I think another one that you mentioned that's I think if they survive, obviously, I think they stay, because I think Spurs pay a decent wage as well, which plays a part, right, in some players' decision making. But I think one that I'm kind of just baffled about is Nick Pope for Newcastle. Like I know Ramsdale came in and Nick Pope just got pushed to the side, and then he's kind of come back, and I don't know why, to be honest. Maybe Ramsdale, maybe they lost a few games, right? But
then they don't like Ramsdale. I think they want Ramsdale out.
I think they don't like either keepers. Like I think I heard like Newcastle after a brand new keeper this summer. So I'm interested to see that, like if Ramsdale goes or Pope goes. I don't think any big club's coming in for Pope as well. So he's one of those players where, do you really want to hold him heading into the summer break, I guess? I've got him right now just because he's cheap, right? He's not worth much, is he? But yeah, I think he's another example. There's a few keepers, especially like I was hoping Trafford goes to a really good team, because I think he's a very good keeper. Passing out from the back, and he showed it in the Carabao Cup final. But I don't think you can replace Donnarumma, right? He's just big, and he's just good, right? So it'll be interesting to see where he ends up. But yeah, there's definitely there's a few players that I need to keep an eye on, like ahead of this transfer window. And the World Cup is kind of that, distraction, and it's hard to pay attention to anything else. But yeah, you're right. It's a lot. Football has a lot happening in the summer for sure.
I think the Trafford's kind of an interesting one because he presumably has, in terms of playing time, the upside is higher than I think anyone else on the platform.
Sure.
Like everybody else kind of plays unless they're injured. I mean, maybe there are a couple, but also he's a goalkeeper, and so I'm just not sure anybody really cares that much wherever he goes. Like if he ends up, in some mid-table team in anywhere, like it's not as good as we're at being in Man City, and so I'm just not sure. Like, I'm not even sure it's worth it, even though it does feel like there is significant upside on him. It's a weird one.
Yeah,
he was linked to Liverpool a couple of weeks ago, which obviously when Mohamed Vasheli went down injured and we went on to Woodman, I saw people saying, right, let's get Trafford in. So I think the beauty of it, there's rumours can run anywhere. And we've also heard the conversations about people saying, oh, the NFL's better because they don't go off to these other leagues. You know, they're not going to go to the UFL. They're not going to go and play for, I don't even know what Canada's league's called. You know, they stay within the NFL and they play there week in, week out. So it's interesting, but I think I just want to kind of get some kind of final thoughts from you guys then. So I'll ask yourself this first, Laird. Are you somebody that when you're buying now, are you buying in what order? Are you buying for the remainder of the season, so the next 4 or 5 games? Are you focused on the World Cup, or are you now looking at next season? Are you doing one, or are you doing a bit of all of them?
I think the primary consideration is World Cup, that there are just not enough games in the domestic season to make a decision that would not hurt me in the World Cup. But if it's not going to be a dual benefit, then the 2 or 3 tournaments worth of TP is not worth like losing utility for the World Cup.
Yeah.
And so, World Cup is definitely my primary, and it's now ahead of adding like NFL shares because I don't know. I'm not necessarily expecting this like huge World Cup bump where prices explode. Like I'm not buying guys now for the World Cup expecting to flip them. Like I just want to have more tournament points going in. Now that may be dumb, to be honest, because if lots of people come in, then it's like way more active shares. So I'm actually not winning as much, and I absolutely should sell. So maybe I'll change my mind at that. But right now, and this is kind of how I play Sport.Fun completely, that it's like I'm buying shares to play in the game. I'm not necessarily looking to flip. And but maybe that changes if all of a sudden these shares are like, 0.6 and look like the median is 0.6. I'll go, okay, or 0.06. Excuse me. All right, I'll do that. But I don't know. We'll see.
It's interesting. I remember I kind of only caught the start of your stream yesterday, but Sean kind of saying, if Fun Token got to $10 a token, he was like, he probably still wouldn't sell, even though he should do, because he's like, he sees the upside of having that, and what it gives him kind of weekly. So it's always the those scenarios that you get thrown. What would you do in this situation? You go, well, what I would do is this. You get to that situation, you go, fuck, I'm going to do something completely different.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see how it kind of how it grows. And HK, kind of asking you the same question, really. Are you, yes, you're kind of putting money aside to the NFL. Do you think you might end up running back to go and get that money out and bring it back to FDF, or are you kind of settled in your plan now and just going to keep chipping away over the next coming weeks?
Yeah, I think I'm not as clear as just going for the World Cup. I always think of it as if a player plays the World Cup and is in Europe, best of both worlds, right? That's my primary sort of condition before I buy, right? I don't think I'm actively buying players for the current tournaments now. Because one thing that's probably not been mentioned is 2 of the tournaments are silver, right? And silver tournaments it's not worth chasing. If you have the players, fair enough. You get your TP, you might get a good, a good pack, right? Fair enough, right? But I think, if it was diamond, then it's like, okay, there's a lot of TP on offer. I have to, chase a bit, right? But I'm kind of just focusing on World Cup, and onto the token thing that you guys were saying, like that I'm level 6, and the benefits of the token at that level is pretty insane, right? Because I've managed to get like a decent NFL port just from rebates and the bonus TP rewards, right?
Wow.
And it's primarily just because I've been doing well in soccer, right? And I think going forward, I'll put my strategy is I've got a good enough squad for the World Cup, and whatever's left of the the club fixtures, it's just to reinvest those bonus rewards that I get from my from holding those tokens. And I've made that rule where I do 50% NFL now and 50% soccer. And if I don't have a player who I think let's just set a player's playing Haiti, right? Sorry to any Haiti fans in the World Cup. Let's just have Germany are playing Haiti, and someone, Kimmich, and I need to buy Kimmich, right? I'll buy him probably, right? Just because, I think those are sort of decisions I'll probably be making going forward. But right now, for the club season, I'm pretty much set in terms of, because I kind of prepared a bit earlier for like the running that was going to come. So yeah, right now it's World Cup, and just looking to increase my NFL port gradually.
Awesome. You're about to set me off on another tangent there, because one of the things I kind of crossed my mind the other day, obviously Germany play Curacao, whatever, and I was like, I wonder if they rotate and start Nick Woltemade up front instead of like Havertz, just so that everybody's fully fresh. And I was about to just drop a load of money into Nick Woltemade, and I was like, what are you doing? Don't be so stupid. And I pulled myself away. So, it's interesting to hear you guys kind of have your structured plan and or at least a vague idea of what direction you're kind of going in. My in-game port is probably like 80% in football. It's going to remain that way. I've got a bit of coverage in the NFL. I've not kind of, I've explained earlier what I've tried to kind of cover. And I am now looking at the World Cup. And I think that, literally we're just over a month away from the kickoff of the World Cup. It's going to be crazy. It's going to be mental. Even if there's not a mass influx of new users, I think the absolute buzz and the kind of intensity that will be within the community will be crazy, because yes, there's 140 players within football, but they're not all at the World Cup. So you're going to concentrate that down. We may potentially, hopefully, I'm praying that we see new players added into the game as well on top of that. So there's going to be this kind of concentrated buzz of, who can get the most TP, who's going to go to the final. Are you going to go and buy the player maybe that's going to win the Golden Boot? All of these things kind of come into play. So it's exciting times. It's exciting to talk about. We're probably going to be speaking about it every single week now for the next month. So we'll wrap it up on that. But no, thank you everybody for listening. Massive thank you for HK for jumping on and joining us for his second time on the pod in such a short space of time. We'll obviously love to get you back again. But yeah, thank you everybody for listening. Please give us a like, a comment, a share, a follow, a subscribe, whatever it is, whatever platform you're on. And we'll be back next week for another episode of the Third Half Podcast.